Welcome back. As what we're going to do in this video is I'm going to make a body for an MU2, and as part of your research, what you'd normally want to do is a search and try to find a good drawing. So here I did MIT's MU2-40 scale drawing. And you can see I've gotten a bunch of drawings. Now, I'm not going to use these because I don't know. I assume most of them are copyrighted. And I don't want to violate their copyright by using them. But if you find a good set of drawings, what you'd want to do then is crop them so you have, instead of three together, you'd have the individual drawings, the lateral, the top view and the front view, side view, top. And then the next thing you want to do is you want to keep one with the wings on, and then you want to crop another one. So what I did instead of doing that, so I didn't have to worry about copyright, is I built an MU2, and this is it. And then I exported the MU2 to Blender. So this is what we're going to build. So I exported it to Blender, and then in Blender I took pictures of it, used Blender to take pictures. And another point, you need to save everything as PNG files, because that's what PlaneMaker needs is PNG. So for example, here's the front view, so I've got that. Here is the side view. There's our side view in Blender that I exported as a PNG. And there's our top view. And then once I did that, I used, I think it was Paint, I don't remember what I used, to crop it, and so it's cropped right at the tail and right at the nose on the top view. And same thing's true with the side view, right at the tail and right at the nose. So with that, let's go ahead and load our tube. So here's our tube, and we're ready to start turning this into what you just saw, or hopefully something even better. So we want to open our bodies, and what we see is a tube. This is what you'll see first. This is the number of sections. We're going to start with 6 and add them. This is the number of points. So we've got 7 around this half circle, and that's fine. Our radius for starting, and that's the radius of what we see, is 2. If you remember from our research, our overall length is 33.25, and our width in diameter is 4.11 rather, roughly 5 feet. So if we do 3 radius, that'll give us a 6-foot diameter, so that'll give us some space to work with. The next thing we want to do is make this, and we'll deal with these when we're tuning the airplane with the area rule and drag. So the next thing we want to do is make this match our length, so it's 33.25, and that, as you can see, has made our tube much longer. And then if we click on the 2 end windows, what that'll do is make the ends points. So now instead of a tube, we've got this sort of cone looking thing. So now we're ready to really get started. So the next thing we want to do, we can go to top and we can import, and I'm going to import the wrong one first. So here's the uncropped, and as you can see, this would be extremely difficult to work with. That's why we want to crop it exactly at the nose and the tail. So we'll bring in the right one and crop top. So you can see this lines up pretty well, and we're back here. This is actually the rudder at an angle. And before I export it, I should have turned off gone here and turned off the moving controls and made them still, but it worked just fine, so we can work with what we've got. Unfortunately, we do have some shadows we'll have to work around, but I don't think that'll be a big problem. So our alignment front and back looks pretty good, and we'll do the same thing with the side, and we'll do our cropped side. So there's our cropped side. So the first thing we can see is our nose and tail are way off. So we can go back here and move this nose down, move this way up. Somewhere in there, let's see what that does. So we're too high and not low enough. So we can come on down here, maybe, and maybe there. We'll align these more exactly later in the process, but that's not bad. I'm going to move this nose up just a touch for now. Yeah, that's pretty good. So next thing I'm going to do is try to get this area in here, between here and here, done. Usually the bigger areas are the easiest. And so what I'm going to do is move this one back and this one back. So I'll come here, let's try 18, and we'll make this one 9. So let's see where that puts us. So I can live with that. That looks pretty good, because where I'm trying to find is where this starts to swing up. So we'll just keep that one there for now. We're going to have to kind of guess because of the wing and the tip tank. So what we do is move our points, and then we can go to the top, and as I said, it's wider than it is. So we'll move those, wider than it is tall. And so now we've got this strange thing. If we hit O, it'll make it back to a circle again. So again, this is wider than it is tall, which is what we want. And if we hit reset, this will make these vertical. If we hit reset all, it'll make all of them vertical. So that actually looks pretty good. And so the next thing we want to do, since this is from here to here is relatively straight, are consistent, as we go back here and we'll copy this so these two match. So if we look at our fuselage, we've now got a relatively straight tube from here to here. All right, so let's do, trying to decide whether we want to do, let's do the back first because it'll be easier. So what we want to do is we obviously need a point between here and here. And so we'll hit the plus. And then we need to move it back a little bit. And let's go back maybe halfway between the tail and here, roughly. And then we'll see how many more points we need to put in. So if I go back, let's see, 18 to 33 is 5 is 15, so roughly 7. So if I go 18, so 25 should be a pretty good spot for it. Let's go ahead and make this exactly 25 for now. I'll make that 18. So that looks like a decent place to be. So this is too large, so we need to bring this down, bring this down. I'll bring this up, and bring this up in here. And looking at it, well, that's not bad. We're probably going to have to put a point somewhere in there. This looks like maybe still needs to come down a touch. Let's see what the top looks like. So the top is way too wide. So I'm going to move these in. Leave the one in the center alone. Move these in and move this one in. And that's starting to look fairly reasonable. So let's oval it enough. I leave that there. It's not going to oval very well. So I'll bring that in. And so let's see how that did. Let's reset it to vertical. Still a little wide. So bring that in, bring that in, bring that in. Let's go back and reset it to oval. So that's okay. So that's okay. We're clearly going to have to put a bunch of pieces more in there. And we're going to need probably one more in here because this kind of curve, well, it starts to curve up here. The curve changes here. So we need one about there. So let's go ahead and do that one and be done with that. So we can hit the plus sign again. Maybe go 20. Let's see where that is. Looks like a pretty good spot. So this needs to come down just a touch. And this needs to come up more. Let's reset it to vertical. Let's look at the top. Reset it to vertical. If I do that, it resets them all just to be sure. So we'll oval it. Go back and look at it. So I'm pretty happy with that. So let's go back somewhere in here and we'll start to get this cleaned up. So we'll do our plus again. I might as well make this a round number. And one of the things you can do if you're off just a little, rather than resize it, you can move it forward and back. If you don't like the curve, quite the point that seems off just a little, sometimes it's easier to move it forward and backwards rather than trying to resize. So let's go back to maybe 29. We'll see what that does. I think I'm going to go back in here where it starts to slope down and see if I can't cover this all the way. So let's go back to about 31. You know what? I'm going to have to put one in here looking at the top, because what it does is it curves this way here, and then about here it starts to straighten out on the top. So we're actually going to have to put one in here based on the top, not based on the side. So let's go back closer to maybe 27. Let's look at the top. Yeah, let's see if we can do that, if that'll work. So this needs to come down a little bit. Let's oval that, see what we've got. So top, we're still too wide. Side looks pretty good. We might adjust a little bit. I might pull that in eventually a little bit, but let's see how the rest of it comes together. All right, so let's put a point in here. And so I'm putting one between here and here, so I want to move that back. Let's look at where 30 does. Yeah, I think it looks to me like 30 might just be a wasted spot. So I'm going to go back a little further. See if we can get this without wasting a and as these get small, I'll come back and finish up the tail and the nose and show you how I do it. There may be a better way. If someone knows it, I'd love to hear it. Now, one thing I know already is this tail becomes actually taller than it is wide. So one of the things I can do to make this narrower is just pull that middle dot in and then oval it. And each time I do that, it'll make it, won't change the height, but it'll make it a little narrower. And we can do a fine adjustment of that in a little bit. So it's still way too wide. But we're going to clean that up when we get closer. I don't know that I need another space in here. We'll see. Let's go to the front now and we'll try fixing it. So I need one right at the beginning of this curve here. So what I do is put these lines where there's either a change in the curve on the bottom, like here and here, or a change in the curve on the side, like here, and also here. So those are the spots I picked to put a band. So let's come in here, sort of at the top of the window, and we could actually, I'll tell you what, let's just move this one forward to about here, and then we'll avoid any breaks or disruptions. Let's try 8.5. Let's go a little further. That way we don't have to worry about a difference between the two. If the top is the same, and the side is the same, then we don't need anything in between. And it looks to me like the top and the side are pretty much about the same to there. So let's move this one back. Or we can insert one either way. So let's insert one at the 4 and we'll go to about 7 since this is an 8. Let's see where that gives us. That's pretty good. That looks like that's almost the peak of this curve. See how the curve is slow, and then about there it starts to speed up. So that's a pretty good place for this. And it looks like the bottom is just also starting to curve up. So obviously we need to move this out to get that curve. So we'll oval it, and might as well make it exactly 7. I don't think that's too bad. We might want to go, well, no, we need to come down a little bit on the bottom, maybe up just a tad on the top. So let's oval it. That looks pretty good. And that actually makes this one look not bad. So let's look at the side. It's Well, we're going to have to put one in here, so let's just move that one back to 4 to maybe a 6. Let's see what that does. That's not far enough. What we want to do is pick this up right here, and then we'll see if we need one at this 6 spot. So let's try a 5. Yeah, so this is just about right at the base of that, where the window. So pull this down. We might be able to get away without one in there, but if we want to make this curve a little more pronounced, a little less jagged, we can always add another set of points. So let's pull that in, and we'll oval this and oval that. I don't know what happened to that one. So this has got to come wider. This looks pretty good there. And we want it to be wider than it is tall. So this looks pretty good. This looks pretty straight from here to about there where it starts to curve more sharply. But here, it looks like maybe about here, it starts to curve a little more sharply. So we'll just leave this one here for now. Pull all these down. So it looks like we can get both of those lines fairly well. And we clearly need to come in. So we're looking pretty good, I think. So really from here back to this one looks like it might need to come up a little bit. This one right. So 20, yeah, right about there. Let's see if that's it. Looks like this one needs to come up a touch, and this one needs to come up a touch. That gives us a much better line through there. So I'll re-oval both of those. That just gives it a better line. So where we've got a problem, if you look at this, let's make sure we've got a side view. Where we've got a problem is our nose and our tail. This is, I mean, we could fly it like this and it would be fine from a aerodynamic standpoint, but if we want to make it look a little better, in PlaneMaker, we can, there are a couple tricks for fixing this. And what did I do? There we go. For PlaneMaker, there are a couple tricks we can do. And then obviously the best way to make it look great is in Blender, which you can't quite do in PlaneMaker. So let's check our front and rear. They look good. Again, this is the rudder being off to the side, so the real nose tail is right here. This is clearly too wide, and that point looks good. This point looks just a touch too high still, so we'll bring it down just a touch. Maybe right on that. All right, so I'm good with that. So I'll show you how to fix now this nose and tail. So what we want to do is add another point here. So notice that the numbers are the same, so we're going to move this one in closer. And what I'm going to do now is use the arrow keys to go up and down. Now, one thing that'll drive you nuts is the arrow keys are backwards in PlaneMaker. If you hit the down key, everything moves up. If you hit the up key, everything moves down. And right, moves left, etc. It really drives you crazy, but you just learn to live with it. And then I'm going to use the plus key. So I made that larger. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this roughly half of what this is. So I'll bring this into here, bring this into here, bring this into here, and then match these up. Make that an oval. And if we go look now, I'll move this back so you can see clearly. As I move that back towards the tail, and what I should have said is the 0 point is here at the nose, which is the same as what we're going to use in weight and balance. And as we move back, the numbers become positive. So if I move that back, I can make this curve this way. And the more I move it forward, let's get rid of the decimal point, the more it will curve. I got to get it to where you can see. Tell you what, we'll do it this way. Let's close this, and I'm going to move the plane the nose of the plane over here. Make it easier to see. So I'm reopening the bodies, and we've got our first body. So as I move this forward, now you can see I'm starting to get a curve here. And now it really is steep. So what I can do is adjust this to define how much of this, what I want this curve to look like. And I'm going to put one more point in here. And one of the things you'll notice if you look at the plane, as it moves closer to the nose, it becomes more of an oval. So what I'm going to do is move this point right in the middle, and I'm going to make this, let's enlarge again. I'll hit the plus sign, make this all go larger, so I've got more room to work. It's almost impossible to do these fine changes, so I'm going to now make this half. So I'm going to make this here, move this here, move these in, and I'm going to make that an oval. And I still don't want quite, I want just a little more oblong than round still, even at this point. Not much, just a little. So now we can look at our plane, and we can adjust this point. Let's try. So that really kind of blunts it. That's almost too much. And we'll just adjust it by eye, and then we'll look at it. And if we want to, we can always put a point in here. But that right now looks like a pretty nice round nose. So that's pretty easy. Let's close this. And what I'm going to do is put this back on the side. And then we can use the W, S, A, and D keys to rotate. So that looks pretty good from the nose. I mean, it's a little pointed, but it's always going to be so. And let's, in PlaneMaker, if you want to make it all perfectly smooth, you really need to go to, you can then export this and fix it in Blender. So I'm going to put it back on the side, and we're going to fix this tail. We're going to do the same thing. So let's go to our body, where is it? There it is. We will reset our zoom. Let's make sure these are oval. And what we're going to do is zoom in and again, but this time we're going to focus on the back. And we said when we were looking at the back, let's get this. It may be too far. We said when we were looking at the back that this was too wide, so we'll just bring that in and oval it again. We'll do that a couple times, and we'll come back and see what that looks like. And then we're going to add a section in here, and we'll go 33, so that'll put it really close to the back. And same thing, we're going to bring this in about halfway, and here we're going to do halfway between here and here. So we're going to bring it up more from the bottom than we are from the top. We'll bring it more halfway between here and here. It may be a little too far on the top. So now what I want to do, again, look at this, and I can adjust how sharp this is by how far back. So if I move this back further, you can see now it's becoming almost blunt. And if I move it forward, it takes on more of a curve. So I can just kind of adjust it to eye, and to me that looks pretty good. And actually, I think this looks probably decent. So what I want to do is go here. Let's see. So that doesn't look too bad. This could maybe come in just a touch, but I think we can live with it. This one looks a little abrupt between here and here. So let's move this out just a little so that we get more of a curve here. And let's look at the side. So that really does need to come up a little more. So and the only way we can do that really is to zoom in. If you hit the space key, or the shift key plus it'll move more rapidly. So let's bring this up from the bottom. I don't think the top was too bad. We can see it changing here as we do that. So that's starting to look pretty good to me. Let's hit ovals everywhere since we made some adjustments. And then let's go to our side and do reset all to vertical and go back here and reset our zoom. So you can see you can't work on that as small as it is. Other than move it. So let's look at that starts to look much better. That starts to look much better. I might actually move this, looking at this, I may want to move it back in just, let's see what 1/10 does. I might even do one more. Yeah, that's starting to look pretty good. Yeah. So, let's see, this looks good here. Looks good here. So I'm going to rotate it so we can see. We'll hit our wireframe. There's our wireframe. And So we've got this rounds out here, curves in here, and then straightens out just the way we want it. Let's look at the front. Again, it has that sort of bulldog, wider than it is tall look that we want. So I think that's pretty good. I'm fairly happy with that. And I think that'll work. The next thing we'll do is put wings on it. So I'll have to look at the clock and see how long it took us. But that should do it.